Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's FCAN webinar, You Belong, Meeting the College and Career Readiness Needs of First-Generation Students. My name is Kimberly Lent. I'm the Assistant Director for Research and Policy here at the Florida College Access Network. If you want to tweet at me as we are going through this webinar, my handle is krlent, or you can feel free to email me during or after the fact at klent@floridacollegeaccess.org. And today's webinar is brought to you by UF Online, and we would like to thank them for their generous support. We have a really exciting webinar put together today, and I'm so excited to have three distinguished folks joining me. The first up is Dr. Christy Keefe, who is an early college program school counselor at Riverside High in Duval County. Dr. Keefe has over 20 years of experience working in K-12 education, and her work inspires students to build a post-secondary plan. She holds degrees from Georgia Southern, University of North Florida, and Argosy University. Following Dr. Keefe, we will hear from Jonathan Milian. Jonathan was born and raised in Miami, and I never thought I would get a chance to quote Will Smith on an FCAN webinar, but Miami, where the beach, where the heat is on, and all night till the break of dawn. Thank you, Jonathan. Appreciate that. After attending high school at Miami Lakes, Jonathan headed north up the Florida Turnpike and attended Florida International University, earning a bachelor's and master's in science in exceptional student education. After he graduated, he began working in the fourth largest district in Miami as an elementary school teacher, and then went on to become an assistant head coach for a school's boys basketball program, and then transitioned into secondary education. And as luck would have it, he returned to his alma mater as the inaugural College Assistance Program Advisor at Jose Marti Mast 612 Academy. And he's been there for the past 8 years. Growing up, he was told, never forget your roots, which is very hard for him to do now that he's interacting daily with his job with the exact students in the neighborhood where he grew up. So part of his profession is helping the next generation of college students understand that going to college is not a privilege, but a right for anyone who wants to attain an undergraduate degree. And last but not least, we have Dr. Michael Preston. Michael serves as the Executive Director of the Florida Consortium of Metropolitan Research Universities and has been there since July of 2015. In this job, he works with Florida International University, the University of Central Florida, and the University of South Florida on collaborative projects designed to increase retention, improve graduation rates, and ensure graduates are career ready. Dr. Preston has worked in higher education for nearly 20 years and is commonly asked to speak and present on topics including student affairs assessments, personal career development, student engagement practices, and developing student leadership competencies. He also serves as a faculty member at the University of Central Florida in the Higher Education and Policies Studies Department. So you'll get to hear a little bit more from our three panelists and presenters later on. But before, a few housekeeping items. So if you have questions, we want to hear them. So in the side panel, you can ask your questions. We encourage you to do it throughout the webinar. Don't wait till the end where we will have 15 minutes to answer them, but keep them coming as we're going. And then we want you to share what you're learning on social media. So you can find us at FL College Access on Twitter, and we encourage you to use the hashtags #FCAN and #TalentStrongFlorida. So we have a lot of folks on this webinar today, and some of them are new to FCAN. So welcome, and we're so glad that you could join us today. So we just want to share a little bit of background about who we are and what we do. FCAN's mission is to lead the collaborative movement to ensure that every Floridian achieves an education beyond high school and a rewarding career. And our big vision is a Florida working together where education truly is the pathway to economic mobility for all. We accomplish this mission in three main ways. The first is research and data. We publish research and data on evidence-based practices and policy opportunities to strengthen Florida's talent pool. Second, we support the development of local college access networks. These are cross-sector coalitions of leaders that collaborate to remove barriers and provide supports for students in their area. Lastly, we have a suite of College Ready statewide initiatives. So there's 4 initiatives under College Ready Florida, and these provide schools and community organizations free resources to help students continue their education beyond high school and build a college-going culture. Our work is guided by our 7 conditions for success. You can learn more about how we use this as a lens for all of FCAN's work on our website, but today's webinar is really going to speak to 4 of them: opportunity for everyone, clear information and guidance, multiple pathways for success, and community collaboration. So now let's move into the topic we are all here today to learn about: first-generation students. To start us off, really want to make sure everyone is on the same page by what we mean when we say first generation. If you were to throw this into a Google search, you'd likely get several different answers, but I'm going to highlight the 2 that cover most of the differences between these. The first is from the National Student Clearinghouse. They define a first-generation student as college students whose parents do not have any post-secondary education experience. So this definition is a bit broader than what we see in many other definitions, including the next one that I'm going to highlight. The second definition comes from the Florida Department of Education, and this is the one that agencies in Florida typically use. And it says that a first-generation student is a student whose neither of their parents have earned a bachelor's degree or either. So the important thing to note here, while the language is a bit different, both of them say that neither parent has earned that degree or credential. So when we talk about who is first gen, it's important to keep that in mind, that we're defining it as neither parent has that degree or credential. So now that we've talked about definitions, let's take a look at some national data. So again, if you Google this and you're looking for different rates and outcomes, you're likely to find different answers depending on the data source or the definition they're using. However, the Center for First Generation Student Success has really led a lot of this work, and they've completed several analyses using large-scale data sets from the National Center for Education Statistics. Using the most recent federal data set, looking at students who enrolled in college in 2015-16, they found that 56% of students had a parent who did not have a bachelor's degree. And digging a little deeper in that, 24% had a parent with no post-secondary education at all. And then when we look at the demographics of first-gen students compared to their continuing generation students, so that's always the comparison, students who had parents who went on to college, first-gen students are more likely to identify as Black, Hispanic or Latinx, or African or American Indian, Alaskan Native, Native Hawaiian, or Pacific Islander. There's also a really big difference in parental income. So when we look at first-gen students versus their continuing gen students, the median income for first-gen students is around $41,000. Continuing generation students is $90,000. Really big difference there. Again, digging a little bit deeper, we talked about demographics. So what about outcomes? Again, according to this study from the First Generation Student Success Center, there are some pretty significant differences. At public and private, not-for-profit, 4-year institutions, first-gen students are less likely to persist onto their second year. And another big thing to note, regardless of the credential level, so certificates, associate's degrees, or bachelor's degrees, first-gen students are more likely to stop out. They've also done some really interesting work looking at how first-generation students engage on their campus once they're there. And unfortunately, the data shows less engagement than we would hope. First-gen students are less likely to participate in extracurricular clubs, and they were less likely to have a paid internship or hold a formal leadership role on campus. With all of this in mind, it might look a little bleak, but we here at FCAN believe that education beyond high school truly is key to economic mobility for all, and that students who've been historically left out of higher education hold our state's greatest potential. And that's why we brought together today's panelists so we can learn more about the amazing work that they're doing to support first-generation students in Florida. But before we hear from our panelists, I would like to introduce our colleague, Evie Cummings, who's the Assistant Provost and Director from UF Online. Evie's going to paint a little bit more of a picture of what the first-generation student population looks like at her institution. So welcome, Evie.
Welcome. Thank you. I'm delighted to be here. I know you all want to get to the esteemed panelists, so I'll be brief. I wanted to, first of all, just start off, welcome everybody to the webinar today. I'm the assistant provost here at the University of Florida, and I run our UF Online program. And I think I'm going to share my slides, or is someone going to do my slides? We're live, folks. This keeps it fun. So I'll just get started and say, hey, thanks. So that's me. I'm Evie. Basically, you might be wondering, so why is the University of Florida sponsoring a webinar? What's that about? Why is UF Online supporting FCAN? So I just wanted to talk a little bit about how proud we are to support FCAN on today's webinar. And then because really we have a shared mission. As she's already outlined, we all believe that everyone has an opportunity to go to college. I also believe very strongly that everyone should graduate high school, obviously. But the University of Florida shares FCAN's mission, and I know the beliefs, I'm sure, and mission of our panelists today. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about what we're doing here at the University of Florida, and in particular, the challenges that we face here in the state of Florida. What is the problem that we're trying to solve? So as we already mentioned, there's unequal access to college. The state of Florida alone has 3 million adults with some college credit, but no degree, and that can include an associate's degree, as I saw the question. So we here as the flagship in the state, we want to do more to increase opportunity for students to come to the University of Florida. Specifically in Florida, we know there are education and training needs. And actually, this is one of the great things about FCAN, as she mentioned, these fantastic reports, legislative analyses. I pore over them. And they're fantastic. So recently, FCAN reported that more than half Floridians have lost their job, had a pay cut, or experienced a reduction in hours. Of course, we're all still dealing with Delta and COVID. And so here at the University of Florida, we think about, okay, so what is the need going to be across the state, and how can we do better? Those facing job loss and economic insecurity will be searching for education pathways. They're not always going to be looking at the University of Florida, but we do know that adult learners, adult means someone over the age of 25. Now, those of you with kids, of course, might think it starts at 18 and you want to get them out of the house. But adult learners, those again, who perhaps are already working, maybe they have some college credit, they never graduated and they're thinking about going back, we know that they're more likely to seek an online pathway to a degree. And that's just pre-COVID due to their busy schedules and busy lives. The other thing I just wanted to point out is we're really focused on the bachelor's degree here in UF Online. And I know folks are like, well, what about certificates and credentials? And those are awesome too. But I wanted to just put up a chart, I'm kind of a data nerd, to talk about the bachelor's degree still remains the gateway for our students to have access to the greatest opportunities and the most jobs. Not everyone needs to go to college, and not everyone needs a bachelor's degree for sure. However, we know that a college degree unlocks opportunity to the highest paying jobs. We also know that you need a bachelor's to become our future doctors, epidemiologists, teachers, CEOs, and more. The bachelor's degree, so the chart on the right there basically shows through the recovery, this is pre-COVID, as jobs came back from our recession in 2008, you can see the greatest gain is that top blue line in terms of jobs overall in the recovery. You can see good news, it went up, right? Now, if you look at the jobs that required a bachelor's degree, that's that top blue line. So were there gains for jobs that required an associate's degree? Yes. However, were there more gains for jobs that required a bachelor's degree? So again, how are we best situating and positioning our high school graduates to go on and achieve their dreams? And I just want to keep a focus on the importance of a bachelor's degree. And again, it's not the be all end all for everyone, but it's certainly, the studies show, remains the bedrock credential for students to have the greatest access to the highest paying jobs. So what are we doing here in UF Online? And then I'll stop talking and turn it over to our panelists. We take this really seriously, which is so how you hear a lot of, oh, no one gets into UF anymore. We're really focused on, well, how are we fixing that? How are we providing more opportunity for more folks to either start at the University of Florida or to transfer their studies into the University of Florida? And knowing that adult learners are going to prefer an online pathway, in 2014, UF started UF Online. UF Online also has a benefit where the tuition and fees that you pay as a UF Online student are 40% lower than the campus fees. We do that because the state of Florida gives us an investment to kind of make that possible. But we know that it's not just access, it's also affordability. but it's also pathways. You know, adult learners, they're busy. They're raising families, they're working jobs, figuring out how you transfer from one school to the other, what the prerequisites are. All of that is actually really hard, and in particular for our first generation college students. But I would actually say they're pretty hard for everyone, in that we as a university don't necessarily design them with simplicity in mind. And I say that with love. So one of the things we're doing here at UF Online is obviously focus on affordability and access, but also focusing on what we're now calling some pathway coaches, networking with schools across the state to build these transfer pathways more deliberately, and also expanding pathways with employers so that we have students with us now working at Walmart, working at Disney. They're getting their tuition paid for by their employer, but we're also with them each step of the way as they work to finish their UF degree. The next slide is us just kind of tooting our own horn, but basically an advertisement to other, especially top 10 public universities. You can launch online pathways that are still authentically your institution, that provide greater opportunity and access for students. And that can, if you focus on the quality of those pathways, can be just as powerful, if not more so, than the residential experience, can be more welcoming for adult learners who are leading busy lives, and you can receive accolades for your efforts. So this fall, we have about 4,500 Gators with us in UF Online. We're very excited about that. Next slide, I just wanted to mention, especially as we focus on today's webinar, we survey our students, all of our UF Online students. Again, these are folks pursuing their bachelor's degree at the University of Florida through our fully online pathway. The bottom bullet there, 51% of our students self-identify as first-generation college students. That is a tremendous moment for us as a university, and a further emphasis of the power, and I say the power and the potential, if a top university really wants to shift its focus away from elite exclusivity and instead on access, and especially meeting adult learners where they are, we can do so. Now, we have a ton more to do. As you can see, just going back up the slide, our students are also caring for kids. Some of them are caring for adult dependents. You might have heard, of course, of the sandwich generation, especially women, caring for children, caring for elderly parents. So we've got about 7% of our students that say they're doing just that. So how do we as a university then evolve and mature to meet our students where they are, knowing the responsibilities that they're shouldering? So that's our challenge. We're going to meet it. So my commercial aside about what we're doing at UF, I just wanted to leave you here with this last couple slides. It's not about UF Online, it's about you finding and your students finding the online program that's right for them. My only advice would be to kind of keep an eye out for what I'll call affectionately the creepy for-profits, but basically find a program that when you invest your time will add value to your resume and career path. Rankings, they aren't everything, but employers do look at them. Accreditation is also going to be important. We really focus on regional accreditation. So as you're looking at online options, think about those points and you'll be fine. And that's also the beauty of even your advisors in your high school, your guidance counselors. You guys have a pivotal role, of course, to play on helping counsel students into these options, and especially advisors at our state colleges across the state. So with that, thank you for your time. I hope you enjoy today's webinar, and go Gators.
Thank you so much, Evie. I'm also a Gator, so I'll say go Gator. And thank you for your support and, of course, the expertise that you brought today. So moving on to today's presenters, the first up we have is Dr. Christy Keefe. Again, Christy is the Early College Program School Counselor at Riverside High in Duval County. Christy, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Kimberly. I appreciate your invitation to participate in this panel regarding people helping students reach their post-secondary plans and goals. I hope that I'll be able to add to the conversation today with some of my experience. Greetings to the whole crew out there from Jacksonville, Florida. My name is Christy Keefe, and I work as a school counselor at Click. Can you click, Kimberly? I work as a school counselor supporting students at Riverside High School, which is a large urban public school with a diverse mix of students. A significant portion of the students I work with are African American. They come from low socioeconomic situations or backgrounds, and they usually intend to be the first in their family to attend college. I also have an added layer to that in a number of the students I work with will also be the first high school graduates from their family, from their nuclear family. A majority of these students that I work with are also traditionally underrepresented in most of the universities in our area. So that adds another layer of challenge to their goal to attend college when they are finished with high school. But with some intentional work of the school counselors here at Riverside, though, we've helped students demonstrate gains in graduation, college readiness, and college admission rates over the last few years. Click. And through my years of work with students, I've learned that focusing on rigor and information sharing and relationships helps boost our students' post-secondary goal attainment the best. In that first area of rigor, I see just what the research shows us, that students who participate in rigorous coursework tend to also persevere through the transition to and completion of college. And from the school counselor side of this, it looks like the counselors are encouraging students to take the harder classes and to not coast through their senior year. So that's exactly what the research tells us that we should be doing as counselors. And here at Riverside, we plant that idea of taking rigorous courses early on for our students. We start talking about that when they're in middle school, and then as they're rising up through the underclassmen grade levels, 9, 10, and 11. We also work to schedule them into those courses that meet their highest level of rigor, that matches their academic skill set, so we can continue to help them push themselves towards those college attainment goals. And then once a student makes it to senior year, if there's still conversation happening where students would like to coast through their senior year, which is what we're trying to avoid them doing, we ask our college representatives or our programs partners to help us encourage those rigorous course participations because to help us second that message about taking rigorous courses during their information sessions for students and parents. Click. For that second topic, sharing information, really that's about how do we reach our students. And we work pretty hard to try to share information about post-secondary plans with our students in a number of ways through activities here at the school. Our counseling team works with college and career reps to share information through classroom lessons or presentations, through small group presentations, through information sessions, and through college and career fairs throughout the year. Click. And this summer, one of the activities that we added to help our students based on the student voices, the students voiced an interest in actually working on college applications over the summer. So our counseling team put together a summer college conference. And this two-day event was actually led by some of our student leaders. So some of our rising seniors put together an assessment of their peers' needs, and from those needs they then put together content experts with some guidance from a school counselor and one of our university reps, and they put together a two-day schedule of events that included information sessions, college application assistance, and other activities for their peers. Click. And that two-day conference we've deemed as a success by observers and by participants. Our exit survey data, just the initial look at it, indicates that overall students felt more confident about the college application process and the transition to college after participating in the conference. We've already had 2 students who participated in the conference receive college admissions offers from the applications that they filled out during the conference. Through this event, we also learned, go back. Thank you. Through this event, we also learned that students and parents need clear information regarding the application process for both college and financial aid, but that they often feel overwhelmed by the flood of information that comes through emails and letters and advertisements and social media posts, that it often becomes so overwhelming that they tend to shut down or just go with whatever the easiest plan was and not really tackle the harder things. And so we have to, as school counselors, we believe that we need to help walk them through the process of college application and navigating all of the information. Click. So to reach our students and by listening to our students through our summer conference and the first few days of schools, The counselors have noted that we need to continue some of our previous activities that proved beneficial. And our students, especially our first generation students, need help understanding the college and financial aid application processes. That we cannot in our school just say, go to this website or fill out this form or go do it on your own, or expect that the student's able to do it at home. But we have to set up things here at our school that would help them. And that our students respond best when we do activities here at the school. And so some of the activities that we are doing include a College Quest. And College Quest is a monthly event where we have a college rep come onto campus and school counselors available. Students sign up to fill out that particular college's college application. And in the room so this helps decrease the students' anxiety because they're not working at home or alone. They're not in a situation where they don't have the help around them. Instead, they're working in a room where they have peers and they can see that their peers are stuck at the same place as they are. They are working in a room with a college rep who can immediately answer questions for them. And they're working with their school counselor, who can show them where some of their resources or where they can gain information from. We find that works the best for our students. Oh, go back. Thank you. But we find that they work better if they can work on applications together. So with their peers, program reps, and school counselors present to help answer questions as they go, because every single website tends to be a little bit different. And it be, again, that sense of overwhelming adding to their anxiety because the jargon on the different websites is unique to them and acronyms can be super confusing for them. And so if we have some adults around them that can help support them through those questions, they seem to respond better. And in my opinion, when we do this, our next step that we've learned from working with our students through College Quest and summer conferences and over the last couple of years is that we also need to reach out to our parents of our first generation students because they are often also first time going through the process. And we've done in the past information sessions at night and online. And what we have learned over the last couple of years is online absolutely doesn't work. The parents don't sign up for it. It doesn't make sense to them. They don't feel supported. The nighttime activities, kind of attended, kind of half and half, doesn't seem to really be paying off. So this year, we're going to try to do a Saturday event and similar to the summer conference. And do it during a day when a lot of students may be around campus for other activities and try to fold the parents into some information sessions during a Saturday day event. And then this helps us improve that relationship piece with our students. So not only are we working one-to-one with a student, but now we're also gaining the confidence of the parent. And the parent's actually the one that's got to walk the student through the transition. So we need to help them feel a little more comfortable about it, in my opinion. And then building relationships with our student reps or program reps, that becomes a really big piece of this whole progression of activities. That those reps are in the room with the students answering questions, and the students then feel more comfortable about asking questions and understanding better who's going to be at the college campus, maybe to help them or point them in the right direction for help. And all of that leads to, in my opinion, that we really, as school counselors and people working with first generation students, have a choice that we can sit down and help them now. We can stop some of the work that we're doing and kind of narrow the focus down to what the student needs right now, even if it's just sitting in the room, actually helping them open the computer and navigate a website, that will help them help themselves a lot better in the long run. Or we can continue to let those cycles repeat. And that's what I'm trying to prevent happening. Click. And then our biggest thing is that we always try really hard to celebrate student success, no matter how small it is. So whether it's a high five that somebody hits the submit button, or somebody figures out how to answer a financial aid question on their own, or to very big things like we have a senior bulletin board where all of their letters get posted and social media posts go up from that. We have our academic signing day every year. Well, not the last 2 years, but up until the last couple of years, we have had a huge pep rally style celebration at the end of the year, where all of the seniors who have post-secondary plan, proof of a post-secondary plan, are able to sign a senior banner and celebrate with their friends going to the same schools. And our principal has invested in them and celebrates and acknowledges their accomplishments through citywide billboards, announcing how many scholarship dollars they earned. And that we think that that really helps them get off the right way and helping them show what they've done in high school and what they're ready to get done at the next level. And that is all of my information.
Thank you so much, Christy. And a reminder to everyone, get your questions in now. You don't have to wait until the end. So we were just at the top of the state in Jacksonville, and we are about to move down to Hialeah, the other end. And Jonathan, the floor is yours. And I believe you are a first-gen student yourself, correct?
Yes, I am. You actually stole some of my thunder in my introduction.
Heat it off.
Hello, everyone. And as we say in Hialeah and throughout Miami, buenas tardes. I am Jonathan Milian, and I am the College Assistance Program Advisor for CAP for Jose Martin Mass 6-12 Academy, a top 100 public high school according to U.S. News and World Report. I'm excited to speak to you about this issue, as I often love to opine and engage in conversations revolving around first-generation low-income students. As a first-generation champion, which is what I call individuals who are not only going to college, but are the first in their family to actually graduate with a bachelor's degree, this topic is near and dear to me, as throughout the entirety of my career, I think I've done my best work helping first-generation students navigate the college process. So I wanted to start our conversation with undermatching. We know that the areas in which COVID spread disproportionately was in our Black and Hispanic low-income communities, which is where a lot of our first-generation low-income students hail from. The pandemic has made these students even more reluctant to leave their home to pursue a post-secondary education. These students have seen their neighborhoods, and for some, their families, ripped apart as a result of the virus. Some feel that they need to stay home to help out, whether it be financially or to take care of a sibling who's doing schoolwork at home remotely, or to be available for the rest of their family to help out and pitch in. Others may still be in fear, and with many schools requiring students to be vaccinated, it just adds another layer to first-generation students who are already uncomfortable to begin with of attending college outside of their home. It has changed their short-term goals, which impacts their long-term goals. Many first-generation students don't realize how the more competitive a college is, the less out-of-pocket they may spend. This graph depicts the difference in out-of-pocket, comprehensive costs, and instructional expenditures across a range of schools from most competitive to public two-year schools. There are more costs involved in attending college than simply tuition, and this shows that the more competitive the school, the higher the overall cost, though not necessarily the out-of-pocket cost for a student at the 20th percentile of a family income. Next slide. So besides COVID and financing of post-secondary education, another issue first-generation low-income students, prospective college students face is that of undermatching, which I started to show a little bit in that slide. Undermatching is when a student does not apply to a college that matches their academic profile. As you can see in these two graphs, in panel A, you have high-income students portfolio of college applications, and in panel B, low-income student portfolio of college applications. As you can see in this data, the majority of high-income student applications are well distributed among reach, match, and safety schools, while applying to few non-selective schools. However, the bulk of low-income students apply to non-selective schools and are less likely to apply to a mix of schools. Hence why you see a lot of students not applying to those top-tier universities because they're scared of the cost, and resulting in a lot of undermatching, which you see in first-generation college students. Next slide. So how can we help close the gap for our first-generation college students? The answer, provide them with someone who can teach them about the college process. As Miami-Dade County Public Schools have the College Assistance Program Advisors, across every public high school in the district, it is vital for schools and the school districts to invest in someone who can give their undivided attention to the college process. Having this can be a solution to our first generation conundrum. Having someone devoted to the college process enables students to have someone they can go and ask questions about the ever-changing, quite complex college process. That person can teach them the college lingo that students need to have prior to getting on campus. Understanding what office hours are, how to read financial aid award letters, the differences between scholarships, grants, and student loans, the difference between a full-time student and a part-time student. There is so much jargon for an undergraduate student to learn stepping foot on campus that it's no wonder why some of them feel ill-prepared when they get to campus during that first semester. So how do we do it? I like to talk about the 3 E's: empower, educate, and experience. You have to first instill confidence in these students and show them that you're their leader and you will help them get to wherever they want to go. I often say as a college counselor, we are a vessel for social mobility, but that vessel needs a captain or a conductor. This is where the student steps in and drives themselves literally toward their goal. Oftentimes, you might be the only person in that kid's corner. When working with first generation low income students, you have to remember that they're doing something that is entirely taboo to their family. You have to think, what did this student need in order to find the right fit for college? Then from there, you can plan and assemble various presentations that can fill in all the gaps for these kids. I believe front loading is the best way to do this. It can start during their freshman year and having a conversation just about college in general and why people go to college, how it can change your life, what outcomes you can expect from getting a baccalaureate degree. Then the conversation can transition to rigor of coursework, getting involved in school and community service activities that the student genuinely enjoys doing, and how that promotes social well-being in school, and how you will find coming to school and getting involved more purposeful. Many times as a college counselor, your conversations can veer more towards life in general than college. That is where experience comes to play, and that is a good thing. When a student goes to college, there is so much more that happens outside of the classroom that transforms the student into an adult. The secret behind college success is more than just getting a formal general education. It's about learning things about yourself, about others, developing and deconstructing preconceived notions you had as a young adult. It's about networking with peers and professionals and understanding the importance of social capital within that community and how it translates to the global scale. The tips, skills, and strategies you pick up to cope with stress, failure, praise, competitiveness, all stem from being in the university or college throughout the 4 years. The development of being a lifelong learner and all those other catchy phrases we love to tell our students when we're talking about college happens to students during those 4 years. This is all necessary information that first generation students need in order to get that fruit that is college and squeeze all the juice out of it. So here are some simple strategies that over the years have helped me get students into 4-year universities and colleges. I am resourceful and I like to use all the tools I have. So I often collaborate with my ELA teachers during their students' junior year, and I create an essay writing seminar that spans over many classes. Since there's no FSA to worry about in this class, I find these teachers to be more relaxed and open towards this. My other students who are in AP English Literature, AP English Language, or who are taking dual enrollment English, ENC 1101 or 1102, I pencil them in as soon as their AP exams are over for these courses, and I go through these teachers to co-teach the curriculum. I'm not doing this by myself. I make sure that I have a teammate to help me. To me, in the dying embers of the school year, this is when I ramp up my college assistance program and I host a junior college camp. While everyone is coasting and building their summer plans, I'm working on getting the next crop of college-going kids ready. I cover various topics during this week-long seminar. These type of activities are not that difficult to contrive either. What administrator or teacher is going to say no to a college counselor for getting students in late May and early June out of their hair for a few hours at a time. You are promoting attendance, and students are going to be productive during the time you're with them. It's a win-win for everyone. In this camp, I cover topics such as creating a balanced college list with likely target and reach schools, creating an FSA ID, and just touching upon financial aid, different scholarship programs to watch out for over the next months, especially POSSE, creating a Common App ID, and I start to deconstruct the Common App and the students begin to work on it. I also provide them with resources during this college camp, from my scholarship bulletin, which ranges from scholarships that range from local, state, and national scholarships. I provide them with lists of virtual visits that are happening over the summer. I provide students a list of different colleges to look at, historically Black colleges, Hispanically serving institutes, test optional colleges, schools with no loan policies, and schools that meet 100% demonstrated need. I provide these resources to these students so they have the entire summer to peruse this information. I have office hours during the school year, which allows students to come in when they can, because throughout the day, it's difficult to see every single student. I publish these hours, and it'll give students the flexibility to come through my room before or after school, or even during lunch, so they don't have to be worried about missing classroom instruction. Having built a college-going culture, there are a number of students who come back and like to talk about their experience as a college student. This is when I host my alumni forum. Many of the students are first-generation college students themselves. So in December, I invite 30 to 40 students who have graduated over the last 4 years from my high school, and they then go into classrooms and they talk about their college experience with students ranging from freshmen all the way to seniors. This is an invaluable instrument that really pushes students, because now they can see people who are just like them, who came from the same place they were, attaining success after graduating from my high school. Another thing I did was I found a place that can be a college resource room. In my second year of being a CAP advisor, I really wanted to leave the office because I felt like I didn't have enough space. All I can do is help a handful of students at a time. So I asked to have a classroom and to create a space where students can come in, work on their college applications. I can host presentations, I can host seminars, I can host college visits, I can do financial aid presentations or workshops before, during, or after school. I asked for hardware because without it, the student needs to use their own devices, and sometimes they don't have these devices. Over the years, I've been able to also create a college course to help students with the college process. This has been a blessing for my students, but a thorn on my side because I need to assess and give grades, which I don't necessarily want to do. However, in this course, the ability for students to work on college applications and everything related to the college process for 3 to 4.5 hours a week is a tremendous game changer for first-generation students. Next slide. So some of the challenges that I've dealt with over the years. I'm unsure who was the originator of this quote, but one of my favorite professors during my undergraduate studies at FIU, Dr. Judith Cohen, gave me this motto, and it's been part of my teaching philosophy ever since. With that, know your stuff, know whom you're stuffing, and know how to stuff. With that in mind, you really have to be a student of the game to educate others about the college process. It's not only understanding how to apply to college, but you also really need to be extremely vetted in the financial aid world as well. I often think it's an overlooked component in what makes a college access program successful. It is the level of expertise and wisdom someone can share in this area that will truly change a lot of students' opportunities. Once you get that education and that training, you have to figure out what is the best way to get through these students. And sometimes you're gonna have to deal with a language barrier. I'm lucky that I am bilingual, but if I was in a school where I did not know the native tongues, such as Haitian Creole, I would reach out to some of my colleagues and ask if they wouldn't mind being an interpreter. When it comes to imposter syndrome, students are going to ask you and feel like, what's the point in applying to college, especially what I call highly rejected colleges, which is not my phrase. That is a phrase coined by Akil Bello. They feel like, what's the point if they're going to get rejected? But you need to tell them that there's always a possibility that they can get admitted. But yes, there is a possibility of getting rejected. However, if they don't apply, not knowing is going to feel worse, and having that doubt linger for years to come is always going to be in the back of their mind. Everyone hates a what if. So I always tell them, your what if shouldn't be not applying to a college that you dream of going to. Financial aid filing has always been the biggest issue when it comes to working with first generation low income students. You have to get out of your comfort level, because a lot of times these students are going to walk around with their parents 1040 in their book bags, and you have to be okay with doing that, with helping students navigate the process. They're going to come to you with these documents, and you need to help them go through the FAFSA and sometimes the CSS profile, because the parents don't understand what they need to do. And then the last thing is offer positive support and coaching. And this has to be constant and ongoing. You have to be real and authentic with students. And at the same time, you have to be positive, okay? As I said before, you may be the only person in the student's corner.
Thank you so much, Jonathan. It was so great to hear from you. And now we went North Florida, South Florida. We are off to Central Florida with our good friend, Michael Preston of the Florida Consortium of Metropolitan Research Universities. Welcome, Michael.
Thank you so much. And certainly to keep the theme going, I'm a first generation college student myself. Neither one of my parents graduated from high school. So my dad always said he got his GED. He called it his good enough degree, and always encouraged me to go to college as well. I can say that when it comes to educating our parents, especially about how to help their students navigate through college, I don't care how much experience you have in higher education, it can be a difficult prospect. And so at our three universities, the University of Central Florida, University of South Florida, and Florida International University, we certainly have a lot of programs that try to shore that up, regardless of first-gen status or not, but we especially focus on our first-gen students. Just one real quick personal anecdote. I have a sophomore student who attends Mississippi State University. I've been working in higher ed for 25 years, and even I have a hard time helping my student navigate all of the complexities of higher education. So it doesn't stop just because your parents happen to have gone to college. With the Florida Consortium, we leverage the unique assets of Miami, Orlando, and Tampa Bay to develop talent, which enhances community well-being. And then that's our mission down there on the bottom. We really think about our talent pipeline in terms of achievement of and access to economic opportunity through higher education. Next slide, please. So we call our efforts focus on the first gen. We hosted a conference on this pre-pandemic, 2018. And then we had a plan for a get together in 2020, but we have moved that off to 2022 when we can all get together in person, fingers crossed. So just like before, we define actually for our work, we use the Florida Department of Education definition for a first-gen college student. So I don't need to go over that again. We can go ahead and slide on to the next slide. And some of our first-gen demographics, these are some of the pieces that we use whenever we make our decisions. Amongst state of Florida institutions, about 1 out of every 4 is classified as a first-gen student. For our 3 consortium institutions, we enroll over 34,000 undergraduate students. That is our base number. It's at 26% of our students are classified as first-gen students, and many more have parents who did not attend a 4-year university, or only one parent attended some form of post-secondary college. Larger percentage of first-gen college students that we have are transfers, which is why we do spend a lot of time with our Transfer Success Network, focusing on the work that we do with our individual universities through our Transfer Success Network. In a study following high school sophomores in 2002, 49% of our students who were first-gen students had no college experience, or white, 14% were Black, 27% Hispanic, and 5% were Asian, We find that our totals within the Florida Consortium are much higher than that for our Black and Hispanic students, but also our total enrollment for minority students, especially Black and Hispanic students, tends to be much higher. Anyway, so we know that we have kind of those intersectionalities that we work with all the time with our students. And then there's a couple more down there. I know that we're a little bit pressed for time, so I kind of want to get to the next slide there and discuss a little bit of some of the work that we do. The first area that we discuss within the Florida Consortium is first access. College students who had one or more parents graduate from college were twice as likely as their first-gen peers to enroll directly at a university out of high school. We find that that is the case as well for many of our first-gen students, which is why we have such hard and fast relationships with our state college partners, because we do know that for many of our first-generation students, their first stop is that community college or that state college. And so we certainly want to develop a relationship in which they understand that the pathway to a four-year degree absolutely can go through their state college opportunity there close to home. Second are financial barriers. 43% of Pell students are first gen, but make up only 33% of enrollments. That's actually mirrored in the Florida Consortium pretty closely to 30% of our Pell students are actually first gen students. So a good number of our Pell students do come from our first gen population. However, we do know that first gen students on average fall $3,600 short for unmet financial need as compared to their peers. So we have a number of first gen scholarships on all three of our campuses that help our first gen students actually cross that bridge, and they're able to pay for college and keep up with their other multi-generational peers. One area that we are focused on, and FIU does a particular good job at this, this is something that we really think about a lot, and that's cultural capital. While we know many of our first gen students report feeling unskilled at using enhanced vocabulary, public speaking skills, and knowing how to navigate college, that's really something that we are concerned with, and we want to make sure that we're supporting our first gen students. And I've got some resources that we utilize on one of the next slides here in just a second. Also, and this is an important piece of information, we know that when students report that the majority of the friendships that they hold actually attend the institution that they are attending, that helps them, and the predictability of their completion goes way up. Unfortunately for our first gen students, they tend to report most of their close friends do not attend their university of destination. They tend to be back at home because a lot of our students are local students. Why is this important? It's not necessarily that the friendships that they have off campus are bad influences or poorly influenced. What it does is anytime that your center of gravity drifts away from the campus that you are working at or going to school at, you have a tendency to find reasons to maybe not enroll as many hours this semester, or perhaps take a semester off because some other things are pressing. The more that we can have our students connect to the campus, we find the better it is for all of those, for those students involved. Next is preparation. Routinely, when surveyed, first-gen students either underestimate or overestimate the amount of time and skills and financial understanding that they need in order to navigate college. A lot of times they will say that it's going to be much more expensive than they anticipated, kind of keeping up with Jonathan's assertions. Or one of the other things that they'll do is they'll think that they have to study for 8 to 10 hours per credit hour. And we actually have to modulate that you know, you have to study, but you sometimes don't have to study as much as you think you do in order so you can do things like work and participate in co-curricular activities. Last but not least, we know that the likelihood of retention goes up 13% for every visit an advisor puts in and a first generation student makes they're less likely to attend one of those advising sessions, in many cases because they don't know that they actually have an advisor. So we do a lot of outreach, especially through our coaching efforts at UCF, FIU, and USF, to inform our first generation students that they have an advisor and where to find them. Next slide. Some solutions for first gen students that we have, besides all of our institutions having one or more our TRIO programs on our campuses, which are a federally grant funded program, most of you probably are aware of. All three of our institutions have Centers for Student Access and Success, or first generation programs. They're specifically focused on those students. They have outreach They have student peers that help counsel those students and help get them on board. Usually those students are first generation students themselves, and they have scholarship programs. We have summer bridge programs. And here's some data that we've collected over the time that we really think is important. Students who completed summer bridge programs have a 2% higher first year retention rate than the overall 1-year retention rate. And 80% of our bridge students graduate at 6% higher than the consortium average. So we know that when we bring our first gen students in over the summer between their senior year in high school and their first year in college, they really do perform very well and compete very highly with their multi-generational cohort. Also, introduction to college courses, those kind of first introduction to college, like UCF 101 or however you want to call them, students reported a higher efficacy in financial planning, time management, and overall lower stress levels for first gen graduation levels than match their peers. So if they attended one of these classes, their chances of graduating along with their multi-generational peers seems to be on level. And so there's not a gap that we perceive. And then last, our 3 universities do not participate in summer camps, but we do know that freshman transition camps, and those are actually like summer camps like you would think of a summer camp, where students can learn to connect with their institution. You see a lot of this in Texas and Louisiana and throughout the Midwest. They have a very nice impact on retention of first generation students. They report feeling more connected to the institution and actually finding those first friends that they can connect with. We try to do a lot of that with our consortium members because we are metropolitan universities through welcome weeks, as well as our orientation program. So we do try to make them more social so that our students can connect to the institution and at least find that one peer that they can connect with and go have lunch with once they get on campus and they can feel like they belong. Next slide. And so, I'm going to finish up and, I kind of went through here because I want to make sure that we have time for a couple of questions. At UCF, USF, and FIU, it's really about giving students a chance, an even chance to make sure that they can complete their college degree and realize their college dreams. We are working harder than ever to recruit first generation students. We know that that's where the growth of our institutions are going to come from. So we better start really doing a good job at reaching out and making sure that they feel like they're comfortable being a bull, a knight, or a panther. So, and I think that's our last slide there.
Thank you so much, Michael. Before we open it up, we probably have time for one question. Shameless plug here at FCAN. If you liked this webinar or you're interested in joining us for another one, you can join my colleague Kathy McDonald next week on the 13th from 1 to 2 p.m. We are going to be talking about scholarships. We're talking about internships in Miami-Dade. So we hope that you can join us then. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing my screen and invite my fellow panelists to share their cameras. I think we have time for one question. So the one question for you all. We heard a lot today about the great work that's happening across Florida. I think everyone now has a better understanding of what the population of first generation students looks like and ways to support them. But if there was one thing that you could tell people to do today to help a first generation student, what would that be? So I'm going to start it off with Jonathan.
I was hoping you wouldn't start with me and I have more time to think. So one thing I would say, very easy. It's going to be difficult. You have to go with an expectation that failure does not mean, if you fail, that does not mean that you are a failure. College is hard and it's very difficult, but it's not impossible.
I like it. Always with the inspiration, Jonathan. Michael, what about you? One thing folks on the webinar can do today to support first gen students?
I would want to give them a list of a team that they need to build when they get to campus. So get to know your advisor, your financial aid office, and get to know at least 2 people who you consider friends on campus to establish those relationships so you have that go-to team whenever you have a question or you reach some sort of a roadblock.
Great. And Christy, over to you to close us out.
Sorry, did you ask me something, Kimberly?
Yes, one thing that folks on the webinar could do today to help first generation students.
One thing, what?
That folks could on the webinar could do today to help first generation students.
Be intentional in creating relationships with students and parents to better understand what their needs are.
Perfect. All right. Well, thank you to my panelists, Jonathan, Michael, Christy, Evie, for doing the opening remarks. And thank you to all of you for being here today. We hope you learned something, and we hope you'll join FCAN again on our next webinar. And with that, have a good rest of your afternoon.